In the 2018 season, you saw your first Grand Prix final medal, and then you head into nationals as the obvious favorite, but you did not win.
No, no, I did not.
You then go into the Olympics, and is there more pressure on you to prove that you are the best Canadian lady, or did you just kind of set that aside and say, hey, like I had an off competition, but this is when it really matters?
Nationals for me was, I think, exactly what I needed, and it didn't clue in on that week exactly. I was a little mad at the end of that week. But I think it's exactly what I needed. I had won a Grand Prix that year. I won Skate Canada that year. I went to France and came third. I think, yes, I went to France and came third. I went to Grand Prix final. I came third. So everything was just looking up the whole year. And then I needed nationals to almost set myself back down a little bit, remind myself, feet in the ground. I fell in the combo of my short, which I don't think I've ever done in my life. I didn't even make it to the combo. So I got off the ice, and even Ravi couldn't even be mad at me. He looked at me and was like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. And then I thought that I could make a comeback in the long, and I felt strong. I felt good. But all the effort into that first half of the program, and then like we were talking about before, I missed the loop, and it pretty much went downhill from there. So it was really upsetting, but I took it as I tried to fill in my nationals podium because I was always missing a silver. So I was like, finally I got my silver. It's okay.
There you go. That's the bright side of it.
So when I went to Olympics, I had more of a wanting to come back for me, and in the short program, in the team event, I didn't feel like I accomplished that the way I wanted to. I went out on the ice. My jumps were a little bit over control, like completely out of control. I was landing them, but it was a lot more effort, which made me more upset than anything. It actually made me more upset than missing a jump at nationals did. I told Ravi that I was not pleased with that short, only because all the work that we put in to put the control back into my jumps, I felt like I went back to my old self and just jumping and hoping for the best in the air. And that, mixed with already being angry about being second at nationals, I think is what put me together to be able to focus for my individual.
But do you think that those kind of old habits that you had came back because it was the Olympics, and this time around you really were a favorite?
It definitely could have been the nerves. I was definitely more excited going to these Olympics. I knew more about what to expect. I knew that Team Canada was going for gold, and I wanted to be a really good contributing factor to that. I didn't want to just be the tag along. I knew that everyone a lot better. I wanted to cheer them on. I wanted them to do well, but then I also wanted to do well so that they were like, so if anything else went wrong, we were still okay. So that was what made me nervous, but being back at the Olympics, it reminded me of the way I was 4 years ago, and I think that's what took over in that short program, was that when I went out there, I felt like I was 18 again and doing this all over again, and it made me forget about the little bits of maturity that I had.
Well, everybody ended up stepping it up big time in the team event, and you guys did win the gold medal, but then you have to wait over a week to start your individual event. Did the gold medal give you confidence going into the individual event, or was it like a whole new process that you had to wait and it was stressful?
It was a long wait. It definitely felt like two very, very separate competitions. I went to Incheon to train. My parents were there, so we tried to make it as normal as to if I actually came home in between. We would go for dinner. I would go for a walk. I went to a pet cafe so I could see dogs because I missed mine. So I tried to make it as normal as if I actually came home to train as possible. But with the gold medal already in like my back pocket, it took a little bit of the pressure off from my own individual event because I can say, well, I'm already going home with one medal. And it was also a learning experience. When I talked to my sports psychologist in between my events, I told her, I was like, the only thing I remember until the end of my program is that when I skated out, I think I looked up too high. And as weird as that sounds, I think when I looked up a little bit too high, it took me out of my own body, and I was not able to stay grounded for the rest of my program then. So she's like, how about just try it for your short program? Keep your head more level, keep yourself more confident and in control, and see if that makes a difference. And when I skated my short program, it obviously made a huge difference. Yeah. I felt so strong, so controlled. You would think that would motivate me for my long program, but it just made me 10 times more nervous for my long program.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, then we saw in the long program, the only mistake that you made was a really rare mistake for you. You stepped out of your triple Lutz. You get to the loop, though, and after having that little mistake, was it kind of in the back of your mind, like, I have to land this? I have to? Or did you really treat it as all jumps being equal?
I treated it as all jumps being equal, but one of the biggest changes that we made was that after nationals, we would always think of my program as two separate parts. We would treat the first half as one half, and then I'd almost have to ease up a little bit to take my rest section and then go through the end. But we decided after nationals, we're like, you know what, that plan is not working. I don't need to ease up halfway through my program because I have no problem making it through my entire long program. I was in the best shape I ever was, so we changed it. And we're like, you know what? How about we plan the second half of my program to give the exact same feeling as the very first step of my program? And that meant my loop was like my flip toe, which I rarely missed, right. If I ever missed. So that made a big change already. I was landing my loop much more consistently. Also, in that long program, not being able to do that long in the team event, I knew that finally when I got to perform my long, I had to wait 3 weeks to perform that long program. And anyone who knew me knew that long program was my favorite. So I wanted to make it special. I wanted to make it as good as it could. And when I made the mistake on the Lutz, it hit me then. I was like, you know what? No, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this again. I'm going to land everything else in this program. We're not going to let it fall here. And that's exactly what I needed. And I landed my loop, and I was set. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
And every single one of the other jump elements was, I think, about as perfect as you've probably ever done them. Don't you think? I mean, everything was perfect. Everything was solid. Every running edge on the end was perfect. I really don't think you could have asked for any more, and I think that, you really delivered when you needed to, and it was very impressive.
It's exactly the way I was training leading up to that event, and it felt so special to be able to do that in competition. Like you said, I never felt so solid and so in control of what I was doing. So the ending of that program, I was just able to put all my heart and soul into it, and I really did put all my heart and soul into that program.
You skated basically your best. Do you think that the marks were okay compared to what the Russians did?
I do. Obviously, in the moment, I was a little bit upset. That, especially in the short program, I never understood at first why my scores were. I got a personal best of 78, yet I could never get above that point. So I couldn't figure it out why I was always dwindling a little bit. But I always understood that it was a judge sport, so I never really thought much of other people's scores up to that point. I was like, you know what, as long as my score keeps improving, I'm fine with it. I'll let it slide. But I was a little bit upset after the short program because I skated my skate of my life, and I still couldn't touch the two Russian skaters. But now looking back, like, I did put my stuff into the first half. Really, that's enough to make a difference. But I know my own self, and I know that putting the jumps in the first half was the best way I could to get the top points I could. And musically, it felt good to me. And I depend a lot on music. After the long program, immediately my coach looked at me and he's like, if you landed your Lutz perfectly, I would have been up there too at the 156 range with them. So I was very much okay with it. I scored 10 points higher than my personal best in my long program. So I couldn't be upset in that moment. And now even looking back, I'm not upset about it.
You shouldn't be. You held it together, two really, really good skates. But then we go to Worlds, and you now have the full set of Olympic medals. You go into Worlds, and we see in Olympic season some of these skaters that decide to stay in for Worlds after these big moments in the Olympics, they don't have their best moments. Zagitova is the perfect example in this competition. You end up winning the World Championship. And again, I mean, your free skate, only again, one little mistake, you stepped out of a triple toe in combination. That was it. Everything else was solid, just like in the Olympics. Did you ever think that you had a chance to win? Or did you, at this point, after competing against Zagitova so much, she was just a robot and it was not going to be possible?
I definitely thought she was a robot. But I wanted to see how much my scores could hold up, though, too. I wanted to see if I could do one more long program. To be completely honest, after Olympics, I really questioned if I'd be able to go to Worlds. I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The first day I got back on the ice after Olympics, I cried just tying my skates. I was so tired. I was like, I don't want to get on. I can't do this. Every time my coach would tell me to do something, I would just cry and be like, I can't do it. But I still did the training. I was slightly injured. I was dealing with a back injury all year. And after Olympics, where I was so tired, it acted up again. So I went to Toronto and worked with Jeff on a new exhibition program to just take my mind off of what I was doing every single day. I did enough training to get me through, but enough training to keep me healthy. And we thought I was fine. We were like, okay, we'll go to Worlds. It'll be fine. We're in Italy. It's a great place to go. So I was super excited. And when I got there, I got on my first practice and I sprained my ankle. So we're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I've talked to Ravi since, and he even said like he felt like the worst coach in the world making me compete. But he thought that there was a chance that if I was going to win Worlds, right then would have been my best possibility. I was in amazing shape. I was just off the best competition of my life. He said, you'll be fine. You can do this. But in that moment, both of us were just like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And actually, after the short program, my short program was not great. I was off balanced. I fell on an axle. I was in fourth. Usually I never moved up in the long program, so that was also really stressful for me. And I actually called one of my friends when I finished my short program, and I said, I can't do my long. I'm like, I have nothing left in me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And actually, when I went in for the draw for my long program and I drew first, it was the first time in like 2-3 years that I was skating first in a long program. And I looked at Ravi and I'm like, you don't know how excited I am to skate first.
To just get it over with.
I could get it over with. I could get on the ice and just be done. Mm-hmm. And that helped a lot. And having the whole day, I was actually talking to some of the other skaters. I was talking to Nisha G at dinner before I competed, and he was saying how good it felt to compete again, how good it felt to compete following an Olympics. He said he was tired, but he could give out all of his energy because he knew there was nothing left. And that was enough, I think, to give me that motivation to be like, okay, you know what? That's a good point. I only have one competition left this season. I have 4 minutes left. Might as well make it good.
And then you had to sit there for 50 minutes and you watched Zagitova have her unfortunate skate. You have Costner, which would be the Cinderella story of the year. If she can skate well at home and then win, she falls apart a little bit. They're both off the podium. The Japanese ladies step it up. They're on the podium. But I mean, what was it like when it finally sunk in to say, wow, I actually, I'm first of all, I'm injured. Second of all, I have absolutely no energy and I don't even want to skate basically because I'm just done. And now I win. What was that like?
It was incredible.
You had to sit on the couch the entire time, right? Like in the back, the ISU thing?
Like, I saw the last few skaters from the couch. But I know in my long program, my mind was not where it should have been. The beginning of my long, I barely remember doing the first jump. I went into the second and third. I stepped out of the axle. My Lutz was shaky. And And I was in my layback and I was thinking, I was like, I'm so tired, which was so different compared to Olympics, because Olympics, I just felt like I was on fire. I was so strong, so ready to do everything. And I was in my long program at Worlds and I was like, I'm so tired. But when I admitted that I was tired, the training took over. And looking back, I actually feel like I performed better in that long program after that point. My jumps got so much better. I stopped thinking. My body took over. The training was done. I saw Ravi after I landed my axel at the end of the program, which is the first time I've ever seen Ravi while I competed. And he jumped, which is like the rarest thing of life. He does not show any emotion.
Yeah, he's just like stoked.
He's just very stoked. And he jumped, and it like shocked me back into my own body, and I was like, oh my gosh, we still had to do a footwork sequence. And when I finished my program, I had no leg power left. I could barely stand up from where I was sitting on the ice. I did like the half curtsy. I was like, thank you so much, but I can't bend my legs anymore. But it was the most proud I've ever been in my life. I didn't care anymore, like what the results were. I didn't care if I hit the podium anymore. I was like, that moment in my life was exactly what I was hoping for. Is my life, I struggled with probably not always being in my best shape, not being always the healthiest, being injured, always having have something wrong, and always seeming to fall apart at the worst possible time. So in that moment, I was so proud of everything. And when I got off the ice, the only thing I said to Ravi was, I did it. Never thinking that I'd actually win, but I didn't care. And when we were walking up to the kiss and cry, he looked at me and he's like, how was that? And I'm like, I've never had that was the hardest 4 minutes of my entire life, which made everything so much worth it. But then going back to waiting for 6 minutes or 50 minutes, the first few minutes were all gone away because I was going through the media zone and talking to everyone. So when I got back over to the couch, Satoko was about halfway through her program, and I saw that she skated really well. I found out I was still in first, and I was like, this is incredible, I'm going to hit the podium again. That was my goal. After I skated, I just wanted to hit the podium again. And I was like, even if I come third, I have a second from last year, I have a third from this year, I'll aim another time for a first, but at least I'll have a second and a third. And then I moved up, and then I was sitting in and watching Alina, and obviously I felt terrible. I know that feeling of missing jumps in a program. It was upsetting to watch, to be honest. But then I realized I was still in first too, and so a little bit of the upsetness took away. It's a really odd feeling. You feel upset for someone else, but you're excited for yourself. You feel kind of mean. And then I realized, I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to come second. And when I realized I was coming second, I went off looking for my skates because I had given them to our team leader at the time. So I went to look for my skates because they were getting mad that they weren't on my feet. And so I missed the beginning of Carolina's program. And when I came back, she was skating really well. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Like, she's going to have that dream moment. She's going to be first in Italy. How exciting would that be? And Ravi did not tell me any different. He would just look at me and be like, too bad you didn't land your axle. He's like, you're going to...
Of course.
Running this winning worlds because you didn't land your axle. But then it actually clicked in for me to look at the points in the corner of the screen. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not going to say anything. And then Ravi looked at me. He's like, you know what? Just expect the worst. And I'm like, Ravi, the worst is second. So I'm like, either way, I'm going to be excited. And once I found out that I was in first for good, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was so excited. I just kind of like shut down inside. I was like, what is happening? But I would like look around and like everyone was vibrating, but it sounded so quiet. But I know everyone was cheering, but like Ravi was so excited. He looked at me. He's like, "You're the first world champion since I was born." So it was incredible. It was so much fun. But to be completely honest, I was more excited watching everyone else than I was. I was like, I don't care if anyone gives me a hug. I'm having fun watching all of you celebrate. So it was fun.
Was the press conference awkward afterwards when it was just... We've seen clips. I don't know if you've seen the clips on YouTube, but some people put together clips where it's basically just all the journalists were asking you, why did Alina fall apart and you didn't? Why did Carolina fall apart and you didn't? Well, I mean, did that take away a little bit from the moment, or did you just not care?
I didn't care.
Yeah.
I've been the one to fall apart, and I understand that it happens. In skating, you learn very well that it's what you do in that moment that counts. Ice is slippery. It's really unpredictable. You can be as trained as you possibly can be, and one little slip up or one little mood can change anything in skating. And you only have 4 minutes, and missing one thing is hard in a 4-minute program.
That was actually it's a perfect segue into my next question. You go to the medal ceremony, and you know where this is going.
Yeah, I know where it's going.
So you're doing...
shiny, and it's my favorite part of the world.
So yeah, so you the podium's not a problem. You go do your victory lap. You have your big Canadian flag on your back, and you completely miss that there's this huge carpet out on the ice, and you take a pretty big tumble. And I think the funniest thing was that you're just sitting there laughing, and the two Japanese girls, Satoko and Wakaba, are so concerned for you. You can see, especially Satoko, she's kind of like, oh my god, like, are you okay? And you just kind of laughed it off. But, I mean, was it as funny as it looked, or were you like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened?
No, it was very funny. My entire life, my nickname was Bambi. I've tripped and fallen on the stupidest things so many times. Funny enough, I am actually a really big klutz on carpet. I remember years and years ago, the first time I met one of my friends, we were walking down to breakfast at a camp, and I tripped walking on carpet, that I threw out my back and had to miss one of the sessions because my back went into a spasm. So it was actually really funny because I got a message right away afterwards, like, hey, it's like 7 years ago all over again, just a little bit more public. So actually, it was kind of the perfect time for me to do that. The flag was one that we took from the stands because we forgot ours, so it was like 3 times the size of me, which made it even more special. And I did not see that carpet at all, and usually I'm super cautious about those carpets because of my luck with them, and I'm usually like, yes, there's someone there. I blame the fact that I actually won. Normally I'm in second or third, so there's people in front of me, but I got to do it all by myself this time, and I didn't have anyone to help. But honestly, I had no idea what was happening until I flipped back over when I was sitting there with the flag, and I saw my heels on the carpet, that I looked at the carpet and like, really?
It was funny. It was a good way to, now that we know the whole story of, you know, the stress that you went through, it's kind of a nice ending, you know?
It was the perfect ending.
Yeah.
It was the only thing I could do. Somehow I actually didn't hurt myself doing it.
Yeah, I mean, amazing.
I had a nice lump on my wrist for like a week, but other than that, it was good.
So this is your career up until this point. Have you been following skating this season, or have you been too busy with the tours and all of that?
No, I was on tour with Megan Duhamel, so we kept up with skating quite a bit. Yeah. I don't think she would let us not be.
Yeah, she would tell you everything anyways. She did the review with me actually for Grand Prix final, and she's on top of everything always.
Oh yeah, she's incredible when it comes to that. If you need a history fact, just ask her.
If you need to know what level you had at like 2012 Skate Canada on the flying spin, she'll know. She will know.
She would. Which is fun. I actually watched quite a bit of, especially Skate American, Skate Canada. They were around normal timing for me, times of the day, so I was able to watch quite consistently. And I actually had a lot of fun watching. I watched quite a bit of the Grand Prix final. It was quite relaxing to watch competitions and knowing that I'm not competing this year. And it was the first time I've enjoyed watching skating, really.
So you've watched enough to know that there are many changes that they've instituted this year. One of the big ones is -5 to +5 on the GOE. How do you feel about that? Do you think that you would benefit with your big jumps and with your your solid technique? Do you think that would give you even more of a boost if you were competing this season?
It's still really hard to tell. I do like the ideas of having more of a range. It rewards the people who are skating really well. But the minute you skate with a couple of mistakes, it really adds up after a while, which is really difficult to watch, and a little nerve-wracking knowing that if I did that and made a couple of mistakes, that could really influence a point system. It's more of the other rule changes that I agree with, especially the jumps in the second half, minimizing them to at least have more of like the classic skating look of having a full performance and not just technical based. And you can see that there's still a really high technical component in everyone skating, so I don't think it's made that much of a difference, but it does make the programs look really nice. So that's one of my favorite changes.
Is there anything else, now that you've seen and now that you've competed for so long, is there anything else you think in the next Congress that they should look into? We see in ice dance, the dancers now have choreographic elements that give them more freedom in the skate. Do you think that single skating should go potentially in that same direction?
I definitely think that there should be, it is called a free program, and I feel like there should be a bit more freedom in it. Really the only times that we get to show our true selves are in like a 5-second span and a rest section, or a choreography sequence, which I think should have a little bit more time dedicated to it. Some people can do it within 5 seconds and then the choreography sequence is done. And then same thing with step sequences. Some step sequences are like 30 hours long and some are 5 seconds. So I think that there should be more dedication to the performance side. Reward the people who stay in character the entire time more so. In dance, it's really obvious if you see people drifting in and out of character, they get points deducted for it, whereas in free skate, you don't see that very often. But there's still so many rules that it doesn't give us much time to express ourselves anyways. So, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to change, but definitely think about something.
Do you think you will come back to competing?
Right now, it is still very much up in the air. I am honestly very unsure. I love competing. I love traveling. I love all the feelings and the joy and the training. I miss being in my highly competition shape because it feels really good on a person. But there's so many other things in performing that I do enjoy that I don't get while I'm competing. I love in the shows where I get to experience new styles of skating that wouldn't work in competition. I'm enjoying being able to travel around with my friends. The days that I have off are true days off where I can, I don't know, play with my cat a little bit more. I have so much more freedom now, and there's still so many things that I want to try. I've never skied. I've never really skated outside. This summer I went tubing for the first time in so many years on the water. So many things that I wouldn't do while I was competing because I was too scared of being injured. So if I do come back, I will be finding the happy balance of being able to mix a regular lifestyle with my regular training style.
Favorite short program?
Either my Mambo from 2012 or my LSPF.
And then your favorite free skate? I think we know the answer to this, but say it.
Definitely my Black Swan.
Is there a piece of music that you haven't skated to that you wish you either would have or maybe will in the future?
Well, Black Swan was my main goal up to that point.
That's the only thing you cared about?
That's the only thing I really cared about. Everything else was just like preparing me for it. Right now I want to learn a majorly contemporary or like hip-hoppy type, something to really throw me off.
Favorite jump?
Triple flip, triple toe.
Favorite element aside from the jumps? It doesn't even have to be an element. Maybe a favorite move.
Spread eagle.
Favorite TV show or Netflix series?
There's so many. I've been majorly binge watching a lot of things right now. Last year, Supernatural kept me going for the majority of the year. I watched season 1 to 12 from the time Skate Canada started until National.
Wow.
That was impressive on my part.
Mm-hmm. Favorite music and or artists?
My favorite genre of music is country. The big country girl. Favorite artist? I'm not sure. There's too many of them.
Favorite actor or actress?
Actress might be Lily Collins. She's fun to watch. Her To the Bone movie is probably one of my favorites. Actor would probably be Ryan Reynolds because he's just funny.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite place that you have traveled to for competition?
Japan for competition.
Because of the fans too?
The fans and
Yeah.
the people. Well, the fans and the people, the same people. But
The people outside
and
of the arena.
the atmosphere is so cool.
Is there a place that you haven't been to yet that you'd like to travel to?
So technically I have been to Italy, but I really can't say I was in Italy because I didn't leave my hotel room unless to go to the rink. So I do want to go back to Italy. And I also want to go to Greece.
Favorite sport aside from figure skating?
I love watching volleyball, but I'm also a big hockey fan.
Favorite team? I think we know what the favorite team is, but say it.
It's the Oilers.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
At least they're finally doing well. So,
Favorite school subject?
math or English?
What would you be doing, you think, if you were not a skater?
I'd either be in cross country, which is what I did when I was in grade 4, or I would have made the switch to ballet when I was 10, but I did not. So I skated.
And now the most important question. You've had several spectacular falls, and we've talked about a few of them in your career.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best one that you ever had?
Obviously, Worlds was
Worlds,
my all-time best fall, mostly because of when it happened, and also the amount of attention that came with it, and the flag just made it all the better. The other one that we talked about at Skate Canada a number of years ago was probably the most painful of falls that I've had in competition.
You also had the one at...
I think the Black Swan one from Autumn Classic.
That's what I was going to say. That one looked like it knocked the wind out of you, too.
That one, I'm pretty sure I couldn't touch my pelvis, like the pelvis bone on the front, for like 2 months. I was at Cup of France, or whatever that competition's called, the France Grand Prix, and I was still tender. I still couldn't roll out my hip flexor.
We also saw, unfortunately, earlier this year, Gabrielle Daleman, who you skated with for many years. You were on the podium with her at Worlds in 2017. She's taken some time off from the sport. She's dealing with mental illness and some other issues that she needs to deal with before she can return to the sport. Is there any advice you have for her, any encouraging words that you want to give to her?
Well, Gabby is an amazing competitor. I can definitely tell that in the numerous years that I was competing against her. She kept me on my toes a lot. She kept me fighting at nationals, didn't make it easy for me every year. She kept improving, which meant I had to keep improving. She was on the podium at Worlds with me, and obviously that adds a bit of tension between competitors because you want to see your country do well, but then it's also a very individual sport, so you want to do yourself proud also. But a lot of what I did in skating, I definitely couldn't have done if I didn't have that competition within Canada. So that was she was an amazing part in my career for that reason. And the biggest thing is hearing about all the mental issues, not only with what Gabby is dealing with this year, numerous other competitors who have spoke out about their mental health in the last couple of years. I think is the best thing you can possibly do for you is to take the time off and to get the help that you need or the time that you need. In those moments, skating is really hard mentally. It's definitely harder mentally than it is physically, and it is really hard physically also. So it is something necessary to do for yourself. Skating is a sport. You can always return to it whenever you want, but your body and your mind is your health. So take care of that first. I'm Kaetlyn Osmond. I'm the reigning world champion, and I'm so happy that you watched. So thank you so much, and hopefully see you in the future at some point.